All right, thank you very much for waiting. Let's go ahead and get started. Please join me in welcoming our guests today, starting with producer Eric Miori, director Shiori Ito, producer Hana Otfelin, and our moderator, Jake Edelstein.
クローズアップ撮る方、どうぞ前の方進めになってください。最初お写真撮らせていただきます。クローズアップ撮る方で、メディアの方のみでお願いいたします。目線欲しい方、手を挙げていただけると分かりやすいです。手を挙げるか、ちょっと手を挙げてください。
お願いします。お願いします。
お願いします。お願いします。ありがとうございます。ではそろそろよろしいでしょうか。お席の方お戻りになってください。よろしいでしょうか。皆さんよろしいでしょうか。チェックお願いします。
はい。Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. It's such a delight to have you here. My name is Jake Edelstein. I'm the author of Tokyo Vice and a reporter with Campsite Media, Tempura Magazine, occasionally The Daily Beast. First of all, congratulations to Shiori, Eric, and Hana. Not only was their film nominated for an Academy Award, but it won the prestigious Peabody Award. That is a tremendous achievement. Maybe more impressive than the Academy Award. It is like the Pulitzer Prize for documentary filmmaking. I'm going to add a little context here before we get to the questions and answers, and also establish the rules of the press conference, something we occasionally do here. Black Box Diaries took years to reach the screen, and it might have been buried entirely if it wasn't originally a Japanese weekly magazine reported on it. That magazine is Shukan Shinsho. It is credited in the film. It wasn't the foreign press that broke this story. In the English press, humbly, I will say that myself and Mrs. Yamamoto and the Daily Beast were the first to report it, and then others followed. Thanks to everyone who's attended the many FCCJ press conferences we've had about this story over the years. A reminder, this is a press conference, so it's not a hostess bar or a hostess club, or a therapist online, so please don't make statements when you ask the questions. If you have opinions, you can write them on your blog. There has been a lot of information and misinformation about this film before it ever showed here. One prominent newspaper I'm fond of quite actually made a widely circulated article that later had to be corrected. Some of Ito's original attorneys who have criticized Shiori Ito have done so in ways that may conflict with the ethics and rules of the Japanese Bar Association. In general, a lawyer has a duty to protect the reputation and secrets of their client. That said, we are not here to lecture lawyers on how to do their jobs, just as we would not accept a lecture from a lawyer on how to do our job. They are not journalists and we are not lawyers. Investigative journalism often requires reporting without consent. Do you think that anyone would report on the crimes of the Yakuza or Tokyo Electric Power Company with their consent. Do you think that if we waited for permission from the Tokyo Electric Power Company to expose their lies and their cover-ups about the Fukushima nuclear meltdown, that we would have ever known the truth? Of course not, because public interest outweighs signed forms. We are going to begin with the question already submitted before the conference started. But first, the rules of engagement. They're very simple. Please wait your turn. Ask your question when your turn comes. Please do not shout out questions. Ms. Ito has put out a comprehensive statement about the movie and the editing. That is online. The answers are already there. If you do not get the answer you were looking for, you can go to shioriito.com. There are also printouts of the answers. The Japanese papers are coming now. There was a misprint. They will be distributed during this press conference, both in English and Japanese. The Japanese is authoritative, so if you're looking for the right answer, please use the Japanese first. When asking a question, please state your name and your publication and who you're associated with. Ask one question, no compound questions, that's so everyone has a chance to ask a question, as many people as possible. If you ask two questions as one, I will ask you to rephrase it as a simple one-point question. Please, no statements. It's okay to preface your remarks, but make it short. The priority is going to be FCCJ members who are members of the working press, then working FCCJ members who have submitted questions online, then other FCCJ members, and then if time, members of the audience. I hope that's clear. Before we begin with the question and answers, the producer Eric Niari, the director Shiori Ito, and the producer Hana Akulban are also going to make statements. They will be short as to leave enough time for everyone to answer questions, and we'll start with Eric.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Martin. As many of you know, we were scheduled to appear here in February, and we were not able to under very difficult circumstances. So on behalf of production, I would just like to say thank you for your patience, for giving us this forum, and sorry to have caused you all of the trouble this year in getting to schedule this event. So thank you very much.
Shiori, you're up.
Hello, my name is Hannah Queen. I'm a Swedish journalist. Previously, I worked for Swedish public television. I've done documentaries for Netflix, National Geographic, BBC as well, covering mental health issues, gender-based violence, sexual violence. So when I met Shiori back in 2017, it was just when she did her press conference. I was based in London at the time, and I had a Japanese friend in London who was telling me about Shiori's case and about Shiori. She was saying to me, Hannah, you know, this woman, she's been going public with, you know, rape allegation with her face and name. You know, for her, my friend, she said that was unheard of in Japan, and she was so worried about her. And somehow that resonated with me. I was the same age as Shiori, the same background, and I think I felt really deeply that, you know, that could have been me. So I reached out to Shiori, and, you know, we started to have these conversations, because I was also like, wanted to ask her how she was doing, does she need support, because I felt deeply that she must be so alone and frightened. So she came to London, and we started talking about how to make this film. And I think down there, you know, back then, it's kind of a sisterhood. We were both journalists, and, you know, it really meant so much for us to tell this story. And I think also, you know, we had no budget, no money. This was before the Me Too movement even happened, so it was no like international collective support out there. But we felt that we needed to document it. I also felt this is not just a private story about one girl. For me, this was also a way to show a bigger pattern, like how difficult it was to report the rape for her, and also like how the system failed her, and also exposed the institutional problems. So I really believed back then that we could, create change. That's what's important for me as a documentary filmmaker. And I also remember back in 2017 when we did started filming. It was just one rape crisis center in whole Tokyo of 14 million, that lives here. In Sweden, we have 10 million in the whole nation, and we have rape crisis center in every city. And I think that also made me realize that, talking about what happened to Shori, it's a bigger story that also shows that sexual violence in Japan needs to be cared for better and attention. So I think that's also, why I really believe this story could, be for public interest and why it matters so much. And also, coming from Sweden, we have there, it's more like a consent-based law. The victim doesn't have to prove violence, and the proof burden is not on the victim. And I also felt that for me it was different in Japan. I felt it was greater stigma here and harder, for a victim to come forward, and was met with disbelief. And I also, that's also why I think it's so important to tell Shori's story, with transparency, including the CCTV. Because I think that's really, we need to be very transparent in telling her story. And I feel, now when we're back here in Japan, we're really excited to be here. It's a really celebration for the team to be here. But I also see how, the backlash today for this film still continues. And it really reminds me a little bit about, the press conference in 2017. And there is still disbelief, about her case and about what happened to her and the film. It worries me a little bit, but this film is also about the backstory of saying Me Too. This also shows, in really rare way. That's why I think it has been really good, globally reviews as well, because it shows the struggles, the courage to go public, and it's not easy, and it's something you have to live with your whole life. And somehow, this kind of backstory a little bit continues today, for Shori. And when we screened this film around the world, we had audience at festivals standing up, both men and women, saying, speaking up for the first time and telling, this happened to me too. And I think that's so incredibly powerful. It shows that this film and your story, resonates far beyond, just one case. And since our premiere here for 3 days, we have gotten so much good support, so tremendous support from Japan, from the audience, and it makes me almost tearful and so happy that we have come here. So it's been so hard. So, and I think also the film Black Box Diaries really examines how institution and societies responds to survivors of sexual violence when they try to be heard, and also the cost of seeking justice, and the system is not built to support victims. And also when we talk about the film, we talk also about open these stories about Shori's the black box, one woman's black box, but it also made me ask question how many of black boxes remain to be closed. So that's why we made this film. That's why it's in the public interest. And I just want to thank you all for being here today and listening and giving this film space. And finally, thank you, Shori, your courage to tell this very raw perspective, a naked perspective as a survivor. And your determination is the reason why this film exists. And I'm so proud. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Show you the next thing.
Okay. 2015, I was assaulted, so it's been 10 years since the day, and soon, this December, it's the 5th anniversary of winning the first round of court case. So for me, living with this trauma, but also documenting it, talking about it, has been a big part of my life. And I just want you to know, it wasn't my first choice. If I went to police and if they took my report without no question, and if the report gets into investigation, and if, as I planned, if the person was arrested, I don't think I ever dare to speak in public. I would never want to share what happened to me, my nightmare, my trauma, to be called out, the girl who was raped. But this happened to me. It wasn't just nightmare of the rape. It was what I experienced in investigation and the law that time. But I had a hope. I had a hope in the media, and I decided to go public, hoping other media, other journalists to be able to question whoever stopped the arrest and whatever happened during the investigation. That was my hope. And also 2017 was the first time when we had a chance to change and update our 110-year-old rape law. So that's why I decided to go public, hoping these things change and I get to question to the people who I can reach. But as you know, it was a half a year before the Me Too movement happened in the world, and I felt like people start talking about why this girl speaks up about such a shameful incident. What's behind her? What is she, what's her motivation? What her real motivation? Is it political? Is it something else? So I felt like my message of itself, why this happened, why the investigation didn't go through, and how can we change the law, didn't really go directly to the way that I wish to spread the words. And at that moment, I also faced backlash, pushback, and threats. And that was the time I met Hannah and her friend Akemi, who at the time was living in London, and said, "Why don't you move to London?" I didn't know them, but they said, "We'll give you a safe space, so why don't you just move?" And I was shocked. I don't know them, but I felt like I need to move away physically, so that's how I moved to London and how we start doing this project. And I think my choice of questioning, keep documenting, just happened because I just couldn't reach to the question. And I published my book called Black Box in 2017, and I wrote the book hoping I shouldn't thinking I shouldn't put too much emotion in it. I wanted to write it as a journalist. But for this film, I wanted to discover the part that I've been left behind, the part that I've been running away from myself as a survivor. What was I going through in my mind? Because I didn't know until it happened to me. And I wanted people to experience as well, what is it like, not just the rape, but the aftermath of what you have to live with. And that is why I decided to make this film. And I want to see the film where it's pictured without where it can tell the story without the violence, visual violence. Because often there's so many great films that deal with this important issue, but it sometimes comes with rape scene or visual scene, and I didn't need to see that. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to traumatize myself. So there are certain choices that I made, that the footage I decided to use or not to use, and that's based on that. But all I want to say today is that I'm just so happy with my team that we could release this film in Japan. Past 3 days has been a really memorable days that everyone came to the theater who supported this film, who was part of this film. The doorman came for the first day. My best friend who let me stay at her house came. My friend who recommended me to start recording came because she also had similar experience. So everyone who supported me, and my mother and father who hadn't seen the film finally saw it. So it's been really an important moment for me to share. Tell everyone thank you for letting us work on this film and letting me survive. So I just really want to say that here. And I know you just watched the film, and I'm here to answer all the questions you have, and I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. 日本語の資料をお持ちでない方、手を挙げてください。はい、申し訳ありません。今ね、印刷中なので、間もなく届くと思います。申し訳ありません。もしかしたら終わった方にもらうことになりますので、申し訳ありません。And does everyone have the English material that wants the English material? Okay, great.
もし日本語のものが必要であれば、オンラインでも拝見していただけますので、私のウェブサイトのしおりと .com というところで2日3日前から、公開されているものと同じものの英語訳が配られています。
Oh yeah, the everything is also available on shioriito.com. It's really easy to find, even if you're not internet savvy, in English and Japanese. We actually had several people from the working press send the same question, so I'm going to ask it first before we open the floor. This is the most representative one from Calista Baudot at the Associated Press. I'm probably mutilating her name. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with French singing names. I'm an aspiring journalist, and documenting stories has always helped me make sense of things. In what ways did becoming the subject of your own investigation transform your relationship to journalism? And that's for you, Shiori.
It was tricky. So documenting part, because I had a practice of journalism, I think it was easier, but it wasn't easy actually because it was happening in front of me personally. So without help of Hannah or my friends who was just there to document, I don't think I had it. And of course, as a director, I couldn't direct what was happening in front of my eyes. And so, and then it was, I think it worked good because Hannah became my friend and other friend of ours helped us film. Due to budget reason, we just gathered friends to film, and so I never felt like they were filming at me. I always felt like they were witnessing what was happening in front of me together. But the hard part came when I went to editing room. We had to deal with 450 hours of my life with trauma, and some of the part I didn't remember, some of the part I just couldn't look at it, it was too hard. And that moment I really have to struggle as a survivor and as a journalist, because in the beginning I didn't feel it's okay to tell my story. So I cut all the shot that I was speaking to camera. I wasn't really speaking to camera, I was speaking to Hannah, who was behind the camera, explaining what was happening in English because she didn't speak Japanese, so I was always updating. But I just didn't feel that's wrong for me to make the film, so I cut it all out. And I was also in the beginning thinking about to interview Mr. Yamaguchi because I felt like he needs space to say. So I was really trying to put my traditional thinking of journalism in. But then halfway through, I started watching and discovering other amazing films done by journalists, documentary filmmaker who does deal with their personal cases. And I was encouraged that it is okay in the film that you do one-sided story. And I couldn't just be balanced, because if I'm a director, there's no way that I could just say this is partial. So at some point I think I could see it as I had to cross the line as a journalist. I had to tell my own personal story, and it's okay. But to realize that, it took some time. And of course, even realizing that, there was also inner conflict because, I'm not perfect and it's all of me. Journalist, survivor, director, daughter, sister, it's all of me. So I always had to have so many conversations with my team to discuss what's okay to put, what's not okay to put, what is balanced and what is not.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open the floor for questions, first from working journalists. Martin?
Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Eric and Shuhdi and Hannah for coming today. This is a question to any of you three.
You have to identify yourself.
Oh, I'm
I know
sorry.
who you are.
My name is Martin Fackler, and I'm on the board here at the club. And I'm leaning over because I'm not going to move this thing. Can you talk about the cuts that you made for the Japanese version and your thinking behind them, what you wanted to keep, what you changed? Oh, thank you very much. And maybe to start the conversation that way. Any of you three?
Yeah, I think there are a number of specific points that are addressed in Shiori's statement. So for some additional details, I would refer to that statement. But I think, generally speaking, the original film is something we truly believed in and we truly believe in. So, I think we're trying to keep the experience of the film as close as possible to the original version. And I would say, with the exception of perhaps the taxi driver scene, I think the experience of the film, particularly for a general audience, is essentially identical.
Anything to add?
Yes, so we made 4 scenes adjusted, which is written on a paper, and one of the scenes that I really have to keep as a survivor, as a director, is the CCTV footage. And we made CCTV, we've been asking if we can have a permission, and it's been difficult to get a permission, so we made our CCTV changed using CC effect. So it's been the exterior and the interior of the hotel, and the shape of the car, the taxi has been changed. And of course, everyone who passed through brought their face abroad, so no one can be identified except me, myself, and Yamaguchi, Mr. Yamaguchi. And the only thing I couldn't change is the movement of 2 of us, because if I change that means I distort what happened, and this is the only visual evidence that I have. As a survivor, I've told many times to 7 different investigators what happened, but they always have to check if I'm not lying or not. And this video was something that made investigator, okay, this is something, would like to do some investigation. So for me, it was essential. Without this footage, I don't think this film could have happened. And also, because it's my story, I couldn't appear in the beginning of the film telling details about what happened to me. I needed evidence to tell. So that was my choice.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question here. There is the footage of you being dragged into the hotel nearly unconscious, which is the closer of the television footage. But also on the internet, there is footage of you walking out of the hotel the next day that was also leaked. And the hotel would not tell me how that was leaked or why that is on the internet. Do you know how that got on the internet?
So that part of footage was leaked early 2020, right before I won the first round of civil court case. And it attracted many attention, and it started a big backlash and online hate. And for that, I had to deal with new cases to fight the battle in a court case, but we don't know who leaked it. We know that the footage access was only for me, myself, and Mr. Yamaguchi. And that was it. So, but the hotel didn't do anything, and it's still viewable. It has so many views, tens of thousands of views, and it questioned me as a survivor, me as a victim, asking, she doesn't look like a victim. She's walking out hotel looking okay. She must be lying. So it's another power of visual evidence, I would say. That was very painful way to learn, but that is one of the reasons why I needed to show how did I get there, I think.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add that I think, you know, as many people know, sure, as former lawyers have raised a number of issues about content of the film, and I think for this version we've done our best in other areas to at least meet some of those concerns. I believe everywhere else it may not be enough for them according to their most recent statement, but I think for us the CCTV was absolutely a red line, and it was something we felt we must include in the film at all costs.
Thank you. Sir, you had your hand up. Could you please come to this and identify yourself?
Thank you very much. I'm Toshi Ogata with Arc Times. Thank you very much for coming up today, Shiori-san, today. And we really appreciate your achievement, and you spoke up and tell the truth to the Japanese society, and you changed the Japanese society, I think. But I have a question as a reporter, as a journalist. In your movie, I watched both versions, US version and this version as well, and you showed identity of investigator A to revealed identity of investigator A to Tokyo Metropolitan Police. You talked about investigator A at the police station, then you showed the investigator is your source, very important source, the center pillar or centerpiece of your movie. And why did you reveal his identity to Metropolitan A? Because I think that would violate basic standards that the journalists need to protect your sources. He feared to lose his job, and you knew that. You talked that in your movie. Why did you? Was it necessary to reveal his identity to Tokyo Metropolitan Police Station? Because he would have a huge negative impact because of that, and he is a whistleblower who should be protected.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I think that's a very important question to be talked about. It was really a hard choice as well to think how we portray him. But I want to be clear. We never release his identity. No names, and voice has been alterated, changed, and appearance too. So there's no way the outside person can know who he is. And I do understand that when my former lawyer Nishihiro did a press conference last year, October, they deliberately say that we didn't change his name, which was lie. So I know some of the media reported it, and it went widely spread around, but we did alternate the voices.
It might be pointed out that the presence of a cooperative detective is mentioned in the book, which was published beforehand, and that in the Shukan Shincho articles, which were the first thing, that there was also the mention of the detective. So it's not anything new, and I don't think that actually he was revealed.
Can I just follow up just quickly? Just
yes.
quickly. So I'm not talking about what your lawyer said or anything. I'm just talking about the content of the movie. So you went into Tokyo Metropolitan Office, Kesho, then talked about his colleague, about him. Then investigator A appeared on your movie. Then he told the story that the arrest warrant was issued, but higher up stopped to executing it. So what I mean by that is you talk to his colleague, and Tokyo Metropolitan Office Police Station, Keisho, knew who was the leaker. That was my point. So his name was not revealed in the film, but for police officers, his colleagues at Tokyo Metropolitan Office, they clearly knew who he was because you talked about him, his personnel change. Then they knew what you talked about. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think that's
I don't think I get your point, because I want to understand what you really are asking here. So
I think he's saying that essentially, because you show the scene in the police headquarters, so essentially the people within the police department, by virtue of watching this film, will know who he was.
Right.
Is that
Yes, yes.
And the question is why I choose that.
Yes.
Put it? Because isn't it a big question? A top of Metropolitan Police, head of Metropolitan Police stopped it. And
What?
who, I don't see the question why we don't question about it. And
What?
as a survivor of that case, I have also right to know what happened. So that's why
I don't think you understand my question.
It's a good question, but we have to move on to other questions. And you did get a follow-up, so I'm going to go to, let's see, here.
Thanks for today. My name is Karine Chinois. I'm working with Radio France and Libération Sunbun. I have two short questions. I would like to know...
One question here. One.
Even short? Well, I don't know which. The change has been, the law has been changed in Japan. You didn't mention it. Why? And also, let me know if it would have been different if it was in another country. If you think it would have been different, the case would have evolved differently with a criminal trial, for example.
Can you say again, please? Sorry.
Yes.
Are you referring to the film or the original case?
No, I'm thinking the law has been changed since the film, and you didn't mention it in the documentary, so I would like to know why. And also because it's seen abroad, and maybe people can think it's still the case. I mean, the law is still like it was at this time. So why did you not mention the fact that thanks to you, the law has been changed? It's the first part of the question. The second is, would have been different, the case have been differently if it was in France or in US or abroad.
Okay.
Case of my
Yeah,
case? Or?
yeah. Because you seem to say it is because it is in Japan, it is because it is the law in Japan that it was it evolved in that way. I didn't get a criminal trial. Do you think that it would have been different if it was in another country, like you know US, you know France, you know London, etc.?
Okay, that was 2 questions.
But you can compact in one answer.
Yes. Well, I want to talk about the law and also the oddness of how we didn't change 110 years old law and how 13 years old was the age of consent before. But I didn't want to make my documentary as educational. So there are so many things that I wish I could talk about background story of society and the law for these people who doesn't live in Japan, who needs to understand, but I just didn't want to use any text or voiceover or narration because that's not really focus of the film. So unfortunately, we are not really focusing on that in the film, and that's the reason. For my case, I love to know, and I'm not expert for American law or French law, but yes, many people told me that could have been different, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's interesting to examine, so is this our current rape law working in Japan? If not, why? And I think that's something I really wish for this film to open up this conversation, especially the definition of rape.
I have a question from Timothy Horniak, author of Loving the Machine and freelance journalist. Why do you think there are so few courageous people in Japan, like the hotel doorman, who are willing to stand up for injustice?
I got to ask this question a lot after screening this film outside of Japan. And when I hear about it, I think about this saying in Japanese, "Deru kugi wa utareru." And it's I guess easier to move as a flow, and it's difficult to be the one. But for me, he's a hero, and other people who appears in a film are heroes. Without their cooperation and their bravery, I don't think I could get closer to the truth. And I just want to celebrate these amazing active bystanders, because growing up in Japan, I got target of group when I was on a train, when I was wearing uniform, when I was going to high school, and no bystander who ever witnessed what's happening ever stepped in. So in this film, I really want to celebrate what can change if you become actual active bystander. And so I just really want to thank Dorman and other people who appears in the film.
Okay, great. Can I see an extended hands again so I can, the lady with the blonde hair. I don't know a better way to say it.
Hi, my name is Jessica Speed, and I'm with the Japan Times. Thank you very much for coming here today. I'm sure it took a lot of courage. My question is predominantly for伊藤詩織さん, but if anyone else wants to chip in, I would be grateful. In your opening statements, you talked about how it's been a tremendous success since the film's initial screening in Japan on Friday. But I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear a bit more about your emotional state, your feelings on the night of the first screening. And you talked about your family and your friends being able to finally see it. But if you could share any more episodes, we would be really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, I can talk a lot about, maybe you two can talk first, how you saw it, and so we can put in.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very difficult year, as you guys know, in many ways for Shiori, and so I think to finally come back here and be able to present the film is very emotional for all of us. I hope it is kind of the opening of a new chapter in her life where she feels comfortable here again, and she can use this film and the release of this film as originally intended to continue her life work.
Yeah, I just agree with Eric. It was so nice to be back again and just see the reactions from the audience. We got so much support from the audience here in Japan, and makes me really hopeful for this film to be screened all over Japan, hopefully. So yes, we are very grateful to be here.
For me, because it was the first time to see many of familiar faces in the audience, it was really hard to speak. I think it was the first time of the screening. I saw my friends since 10 years old, 3 of them sitting front row, crying. And one of the friends was the one who took me to the hospital after the assault because I was afraid if I'm pregnant or not. And she was also a nurse. And just remembering all this journey was something. And seeing everyone who was involved to this moment, to this journey, to be with them, to be in the same room, was something special. And I wasn't sure if my parents would show up until last minute because they were hesitant. They were scared to come to the theater after seeing all this backlash and threat. But they decided to come, And they told me I did well in an email. We didn't talk much after, but I'm just so happy that they could also witness us making it. Not every family member has seen it yet. It's still hard for my family to see it. So, and there were some part of the film scene I wish I didn't have to put in as a survivor, as Shiori Ito, but I decided to put it as a director, thinking if I was making someone else's documentary, would I put it or not? And these moments, these scenes are extremely difficult for those who know me, so I know it's gonna be a hard one, but I'd say I think it was the most reacted screening. We've screened so many places, over 60 countries, but I never received so many letters, messages afterwards. And I always thought this case, this theme, this story, is so universal, but of course, it's a story of Japan, story of many of us, and that's what I realized.
While we're on the subject, at the end of the screening, this question is from Isabel from Tokyo, the Petite Journal. At the end of the screening, a black envelope was handed out inviting viewers to talk about their own black box experience. How did this idea come about, and what kinds of reactions did it provoke? You can answer either one of those questions because it's a two-part question, I just realized. Sorry. But this was distributed at the movie theater to people to write in their own black box experiences, and how did that come about, and what were the reactions?
Yes, so idea was that what we want after watching, experiencing this film, I want everyone to just really start thinking what's the black boxes they maybe see around them, or they try not to see. And the story of this film is of course starting with my incident, but it's just one of them. It's one of many stories, and I used my story as example, but it's just story of everyone. So I want to have everyone to take a moment to write down whatever the feeling that came up after watching the film, or realizing maybe what's around them, to write down. And we decided to make it this way, this shape, so after you can cut it and make it as a little box, and maybe you can cash it or open it. And yeah, that's the concept. And I just really wish we could open more boxes. Mine is just minor one, and there's so many more. And I think films, the cinema space is an amazing space that you experience it together, you feel emotion together, and I think that action can lead to somewhere, and I just wanted something that they can have it back home to start with. Thank you.
Eric, did you see any of the responses, or did people turn them in, or?
I haven't seen any responses yet. Yeah.
It's online, it's Instagram.
Okay. All right. Raise your hand if you have a question, preferably from the working press first. Members of the FCCJ. You in the back who are very tall. What's your hand up there? You. Yes. Please identify yourself and affiliation.
Peter Lamb with Forbes. Congratulations on the winning the award, the Peabody Award. It's a very impactful film. I think we all were very taken by it. Yamaguchi countersued you for 130 million yen for defamation of character. In the end, he ended up, for the civil case, he ended up paying you 3.3 million yen. How do you account for the discrepancy between 130 million yen and 3 million yen? Is that a mirror image of the Japanese society when it comes to men and women? How do you see it?
Mm-hmm. How do you see it? Well, it's an interesting question, because when I started this case, I was asked from my lawyer, how much do you want to claim? And I say, I didn't know. So I Googled, and it said the cost of hospital fee or the days that you have to skip the work and mental or the therapy fee, it costs about 10,000, 10 million yen. So I put it, and they say no, that's too much. Usually we ask for 100,000, 10,000.
1 million.
1 million, sorry, 1 million. Yeah. And I was like, who would price that? Who would value it? But I guess it was always based on previous cases. So I can't really value and examine what was, but of course that amount of money wouldn't even cover my 6 lawyers' fee. Yeah, so what do you think? I would love to know why was it so high for him? Because he has better job? Because he's a man?
Okay, Jimbo-san? Tim? And also, after Jimbo-san, the gentleman there with the glasses, you just don't put your hand up very high so I can listen to you. Yeah, after Jimbo-san. Jimbo, you're first.
Sorry, I asked my cameraman, I'm this side.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's sorry. It's Jimbo-san, sorry.
Okay, can I speak? Okay. Is that on? Is that on? It's no switch. Is the microphone? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here you go. Well, congratulations for the award and also for the screening in Japan. Okay, my question is very simple. Why does it take so long to screen this in Japan? And also, especially for Ito-san, what does it mean that the screening in Japan is delayed so much, given that that incident? Well, that's the same question. Given that the incident took place in Japan, you're Japanese. Everything took place in Japan, but it seems as though Japan came last to be screened. So, what does that mean to you? Maybe for other Eric and everyone else too. Thank you.
Maybe I can talk about the why, and then you can talk about the meaning. So, this film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2024, and we had a strategy as most, I would say, internationally minded art house films documentaries have, which is to premiere first at a prestigious international film festival, gain acclaim, then eventually premiere it back in Japan. That's for festival premieres, that isn't necessarily for distribution. And I would say that distribution offers from outside of Japan came very quickly. And within Japan, things were a lot more complicated. And we faced what I would consider to be self-censorship on the part of Japanese companies, particularly exhibitors, as distinct from distributors, in consideration of relationships with the government, as well as businesses unrelated to film. And I can't talk about the specifics here, but as a film producer in this country, I find them to be very worrisome. And I think that was what delayed the release of the film here initially. And then, of course, things got much more complicated later when Shirei's lawyers came forward. But I would say, coming back to it, that the crux of the issue, including for the exhibitors or the exhibitor in question, was always the CCTV. So I think, but anyway, it took us a while since earlier this year to reorganize our strategy for Japanese distribution, and we're very fortunate to have 3 great companies who are leading it right now. One is Star Sands, who we partnered with from production initially, because at the time we felt they were the strongest company in this country doing content not just for smaller art house audiences, but for general audiences, with politically sensitive content, including Shimbun Kisha, the narrative film, and other films. And there's an executive producer who unfortunately passed away in 2022, Kamura-san, who believed in this project early and financed this project and gave us a lot of creative freedom and time to finish it in the right way. So Star Sands has stuck with this project for a long time, and then we were fortunate enough that Toei and Nikatsu, two of the great original Japanese 5 studios, joined the project, and it's a co-distribution now. It opened only in one theater, which, as you can guess, is, I think, unusual for a film of this stature. But screenings were sold out. Every screening was sold out the first 3 days. And I think if the high interest continues, I think the release will spread.
Yeah, I guess Eric touched on the reason why originally we did have offer that is from international worldwide platform, streaming platform, but Japan part said no, and therefore we had to move on to a different path to distribute. So it wasn't like we were avoiding, we wanted to do it in Japan, but it was very difficult. For me, I'm just so grateful and glad that we can finally screen the film, and I can talk to full of journalists here today. But I was afraid to come here because when the former lawyer did the press conference last year, 2024, October, even the film wasn't out in US, it was like a few days before. Their claim, which was included in lie, was out and wasn't fact-checked and was written by numbers of journalists, and that continued. So this year as well, we've been trying to show the fixed version, changed version to our former lawyer from the end of February. I mean, we've been always trying to show, but especially this year, we went to try to tell them we want to show for 4 times. They all say no, but then they tell the press, March, that we haven't shown them or we haven't apologized, so it's a lie. But then because of, I don't understand, because I believe in journalism, but this one-sided claim just spread without fact-checking, and they could just reach out to us. Is that true? Because we have a fax, we have email saying that we want to show, and they say no. So it's so easy to say. But I was so shocked. One-sided lie just spread around, and especially one journalist wrote about the article that we were using the footage of survivor meeting without their permission, which was so not true. Who's here today, Mochizuki-san, and I never got apologize from you, and I respect you. I love all of your work you did before, but it was so shocking that you could easily fact check or talk, and you just learned the story. And of course people saw it, and Tokyo Shimbun did change the headline, but then of course it was on the same web page. So already many people watched it, so it was really difficult to spread the lie. So therefore, so many things happen till we get there to hear. So I'm just so happy today, finally, we can tell this story. And we never wanted to come after you or Nishihiro-san or in public, because I respect them. I don't want to make any public fight unnecessary, but unfortunately, because it's been just non-stoppable one-sided story spread around.
Shiro-san, I'm going to have to interrupt you here because we're running out of time. Mochizuki-san, you get to ask a question. Keep it to 1 point. And then after Mochisuke-san, sorry, just procedural stuff here. Gentleman in the tan jacket, you were the last question, and then we have to clear out here. There's another event.
冒頭から言ってたんで東京新聞の続きですが、私の書いた記事の原文はもうそのままです。ただしヘッドラインタイトルですね、そこが確かに誤読をさせたと言って修正しました。でそれ以上に勉強会で多くの方たちの性被害を訴えてたお話の方は許諾を得てましたが、そうじゃない方たち、多くの方たちから許諾を得ず、その後トラブルになったことも報じています。そのことについて一言。それから西野さんはじめ今日もかなり攻撃的な話ばかりです。私はサバイバーであるということで、傷つけた方たちに何を思うのか、私を含めて多くの支持者、支援者が今あなたに大変絶望しています。
最初の質問ね。
I think what you just say is you changed the headline, but headline was untrue. And you didn't still collect, it wasn't a survivors meeting, but you kept using that. It was a media people gathering. And I was invited there to speak. And for Japanese version, whoever I couldn't find, whoever I couldn't reach, we changed for the Japanese version.
他の許諾を得られなかった人に対してどう思ってるんですか？一人の人でごまかさないでください。
Would you two please take this up later? I'm sorry. I have to butt in here.
なぜ謝罪がないの？西野さんたちに対する謝罪がまずないんですか？あなたが伝えに勝ったのはドアマの証言じゃないですよ。
モチさん、
ありがとうございます。本当にひどいことです。
モチさん、はい、はい、ルールはあるからね。はい。
ひどい、あまりにもひどい。
Just so you know, I did apologize to her 4 times, to Nishihiro-san.
Okay.
My name is Takuya Nishimura, freelance journalist and senior fellow of Asia Policy Point. It seems to me that the important content of the black box is the political influential power of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. So my question is, what kind of feelings did come up to you when you realized that Abe was assassinated 3 years ago?
I couldn't stop crying myself.
I still remember that day. That day, I was heading to Kawasaki, to Sakuramoto, because these are where Zainichi Korean lives, and I go there often to meet them. And we were scared because I think when the news broke out, there were like fake news saying maybe that was done by Zainichi or something, so we were scared. And also because that was the time, that same day, the Supreme Court decided to say, okay, this case is closed, victory to you. And I couldn't be happy. Why now? Why today? I was so confused. I was so scared. So I went to Kawasaki, I still remember, and we were scared. We were so scared. Even that was just coincidental, that the date of our victory and the date of the shooting happened. It was just, I can never forget that day, and I still question why was it the same day.
Thank you very much. And when the assassin of Prime Minister Abe mentioned that he did it because of Abe's connection to the Unification Church, I don't think any of the Japanese media got the consent of the Unification Church to be mentioned in the article, which is quite appalling. We don't have time for any other questions because we've got another verse coming. Thank you everyone for coming today, and let's give a big round of applause for Eric and Shori. Thank you very much. Would you please remain seated while they exit the room with Karen and company? And thanks again everyone for coming. That adjourns this press conference.
質問でした。